The delegate from Prince William, Delegate Torian.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, speaking to the conference report.
You have the floor.
Madam Speaker and members of the House, last March, this body passed the historic budget, funding bold investments in affordable health care, access to higher education, workers' rights, and new initiatives to advance equity across Virginia. Since then, the people of this Commonwealth and country have endured the most significant public health crisis in 100 years, accompanied by a level of economic decline unseen since the Great Depression, amplifying every pre-existing disparity. Virginia has been resilient but not immune. We were called into the special session to close a $2.8 billion revenue shortfall while tackling the economic and public health demands of the pandemic, as well as to make reforms to Virginia's policing and criminal justice system. The governor proposed a package of amendments that retained the stopgap freeze on almost all new spending, retaining a sizable unappropriated balance. The House Appropriation Committee then considered over 130 additional amendments before reporting a package that utilized savings and alternative funding sources to protect some of our original budget progress while meeting the current moment's demand. As a result, the vast majority of spending outlined in the budget before you reflects the restoration of critical priorities from the 2020 regular session. House and Senate budget leaders worked closely to reconcile any differences and craft a unified budget that addresses Virginia's urgent needs with fiscal responsibility. My priorities throughout the process were maintaining fiscal responsibility, fair funding for criminal justice reform measures, health care, K-12, and higher education. The conference report restores funding to expand early childhood education. It restores at-risk add-on funding to support the educational needs of low-income students in Virginia. It provides $95.2 million in relief to local school divisions, eliminating the impact of the sales tax reforecast on K-12 allocations, and directs $26.9 million in federal funds to support local school divisions' short-term virtual learning technology needs. This budget retains provisions to support our higher education institutions during challenging financial times and allocates $94 million to maintain affordable access to higher education. The conference report protects those caring for our most vulnerable Virginians during this pandemic. It includes overtime pay for personal care attendants and directs $72 million in federal relief funds to these care workers in the form of hazard pay. Nursing homes will continue to receive an additional $20 per patient per day to stabilize an industry under extreme stress. Service providers assisting Virginians with intellectual and developmental disabilities will receive immediate retainer payments and a higher reimbursement rate starting in January 2021. This budget will restore funding to alleviate pressure on our state mental health facilities and provide substantial funding to expand STEP Virginia. It also includes $17.5 million to fund a Medicaid adult dental benefit. Madam Speaker, the conference report allocates funding to implement the police and criminal justice reform legislation approved by the General Assembly during this session, including the Marcus Alert System and earned sentence credits. Our budget also restores $1.5 million to pre- and post-incarceration services programs and $3.5 million for local pretrial and probation services. This budget restores funding to additional public defender and district court clerk positions and adds $7.5 million in HB 599 funding to help recruit and retain qualified police officers. Madam Speaker, the conference report includes unprecedented protection for Virginia's renters and ratepayers during this pandemic. We focused on limiting utility shutoffs and evictions by continuing the moratoriums on both and providing funding to pay down consumer utility debt, establishing repayment plans, and provides additional rent and mortgage assistance. The budget before you achieves all of this while protecting Virginia's AAA bond rating under a diminished revenue reforecast. This budget responsibly invests $89.7 million in Virginia's flexible reserve fund, which is easier to access if needed to address any economic downturn in the near future. Madam Speaker, before I make the motion, I simply want to say thank you for your leadership. To our Majority Leader, we thank her for her leadership as well. We certainly thank the Governor and members of the Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee. And more importantly, I want to thank the staff of the Appropriations Committee and the citizens of the Commonwealth for giving us the opportunity to present to them a budget that we hope will serve them during these very difficult times that we're facing in the Commonwealth. And with that said, Madam Speaker, I move adoption of the conference report.